Is brought to you by Marcus and Mack, voted best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Well, Senator, it's not as if there's nothing happening these days. My goodness, you're a busy guy.
There's a lot happening. There's a lot happening.
Really is. Let's start with last night's event at IUP. The College of Osteopathic Medicine is going to be, we keep using that word, game changer. It really is just something that is going to really elevate IUP and rocket it into the future.
It absolutely will. IUP is about to hit 150 years, and obviously they've transformed over those 150 years. They've had some ups, they've had some downs, and we've had some downs over the last decade, particularly with declining enrollment. We saw a little bit of that return last year, and I'm hoping that their traditional enrollment will continue to stabilize and hopefully grow a little bit. But I think this is so dynamic and different because we're talking about students that would be coming to this community that have a sense of where they want to go and what they want to be. Mm-hmm. And when you add into that the dynamic of how fundamental health care is to all of our well-being, how challenging it is in rural communities, and the economic benefit that comes from having that kind of a population in our community, it's just a win-win-win, and it's a regional win. And I think that's probably the real critical point I want to underscore. And when you tie it in to what Indiana Regional Medical Center is doing with the Punxsutawney Hospital and likely soon the Armstrong Hospital, I think we have a true opportunity to be a hub of the delivery of health care in rural communities.
Yeah, it really is fantastic to watch how this is it's not only being born, but then it is growing, and it's growing very rapidly. IUP's nursing department has for a long time been a real strength for that university.
Yes, it has. Yeah. It's a critical component of this. The entire spectrum, and we've talked a lot about EMS and the challenges of EMS. The healthcare delivery is strained at all levels. And the only way that we can address that is to try to bring people into the labor force that want to focus on health care. And this is obviously a critically large part of that.
Yeah, we would love to see that happen and happen quickly and become established, as it appears that it is on the way. And that's so darned exciting. And then you have the mental health facility being built at IRMC. We can see that in terms of health care, we are really, as you use the word hub, we're really stepping forward in this region and in this county.
I go back to Meds and Eds, and we hear a lot about Allegheny County and the city of Pittsburgh having University of Pittsburgh, Duquesne, Carnegie Mellon, the list goes on, and then they have the medical dynamic of AHN and UPMC. We can have that kind of Meds and Eds, too, on a smaller scale that's just as impactful in a community of our size. And I think that's where we can go, and I'm very encouraged by it because I look at it as lifting all boats in the region, and it allows us to advance other economic opportunities beyond those core pieces of our economy.
Well, in this case, it's Meds and Eds coming together. Let's speak a little bit about Eds, because Governor Shapiro, with a couple of announcements last week having to do with the state system of higher education in particular, and a model that he would like to see implemented, wonderful goals, but goals need to be met with realities, too, and the reality is somebody has to pay for this. Funding has to be found, and we have to determine if that's the best way to spend those funds.
And most importantly, the details matter. I commend the governor for bringing this conversation forward because we do have to transform the way higher education is provided in this state. And the osteopathic medicine school is an example of that. But in a broader scale, I always use the analogy that we're flying an airplane with a lot of empty seats. And the realities of our demographics are not going to allow us to fill those empty seats. And so we have to do things like shrink physical plants, like IUP is doing right now. We have to become more efficient in how we deliver the education. And quite frankly, we have to attract new students. And I think we need to focus on what we can do to attract out-of-state students coming into our Commonwealth, because, again, our demographics are just not good. And there's only one way to turn that around. And so I'm encouraged that the governor is willing to step up and start this kind of conversation. I'm just not sold at this point on the direction, but that's why we have the process we have. He's going to make his proposal next Tuesday. We're going to vet it, and then we will see if we can figure out what pieces can work and what might be the challenges.
Yeah, yeah. And that budget address by the governor is really, really going to be interesting. Say this, he's a whole different cat than Governor Wolf was.
He's much different. I give the governor credit in the sense that he's very visible. He's a very hard worker. He knows what's going on around him. There is no doubt about that. Obviously, I have some strong philosophical disagreements with him from time to time on policy, but I will give him credit for being highly engaged in terms of bringing issues to the table. How that engagement translates into getting them across the finish line, that's still yet to remain to be seen. Obviously, we know 2023 was a pretty rocky start.
Yeah, well, that budget process last year was more than a little drawn out, and obviously we'd like to see it go more smoothly this time. What has to happen in order for it to be a better process?
I think expectations have to be managed on all fronts. The governor came out very vocally in favor of school vouchers, which is something that we in our caucus in the Senate are strongly supportive of. And so we had a bipartisan agreement. We had a bipartisan understanding, but he wasn't able to get it across the finish line with his own party in the House of Representatives. And that dynamic really caused a lot of consternation. And I'm hoping that all of us, ourselves in the Senate, the House, and the governor, all have a different set of expectations on where we can get in divided government.
It's really going to be interesting to watch this on Tuesday when the governor gives it. And then we get the reactions, obviously. The various agencies will then begin the process of appearing before the House and the Senate committees, and we'll get this whittled down and hope that it all comes the way that we are able to go to keep the government rolling and Pennsylvania moving forward. In your mind, when we look at the legislative year that is about to unfold before us, what are some of the things that Pennsylvania must do? I know the governor said the other day that we're tired of losing to Ohio in so many things. What must Pennsylvania do to get really solid financial footing underneath it?
Well, we have at this moment solid financial footing. The challenge is that the solid financial footing we have is not infinite. We have one-time dollars in our piggy bank, for lack of a better term. Lots of folks have lots of ideas on how to spend those dollars. The key is understanding that you can't spend one-time dollars for recurring expenses and not eventually end up in a financial problem. And from our vantage point, I think the governor is absolutely correct when we see particularly what's going on in Ohio, but also West Virginia. They're having some very significant economic investments occurring, and we're not seeing the same. And I think some of it's the tax structure, but I also think we have to take a hard look at our regulatory environment. We have been very focused on permitting reform. And the governor talks a lot about, well, if you don't get your permit in a certain number of days, you get your money back. Well, they don't want their money back. They want the permit so they can make the investments that they're looking to make in whatever product or process they're talking about. So we've got to get to the point where we become much more user-friendly than we are, and that to me is as much about a red tape issue as it is a tax structure issue.
Every state is going to tout the benefits of coming and doing business within its borders. Pennsylvania does it. Ohio does it. New York, West Virginia, all of our neighbors do it. Do companies really want to come to Pennsylvania? Do we have things that other states don't have that they would like to have here?
I do think we have some very positive things. We have a labor force that is significant across this Commonwealth that is highly regarded for its efficiency and productivity. That is number one. Number two, we have very, very solid access to affordable and reliable electricity so far. Obviously, we know the Reggie issue and that we want to keep it that way. We also have abundant access to a water supply, which I think is oftentimes overlooked. We just saw Polyvision come back from California to Western Pennsylvania. I never would have thought in all of my years that we would see the old Green Steel building in Dixonville be brought back to life. But now we have Platinum Vision Services there, and we have Ameristock. We have two companies that are producing jobs and tax revenue in that facility. And as I said, in the case of Platinum Visual Services, they came back from California. Ameristock's a homegrown entity, and it's a great dynamic. And I think that's a good example of what we do have to offer.
Pennsylvania, of course, is competing with other states. Within Pennsylvania's borders, though, regions compete with other regions to see about attracting business. And this region, you just mentioned a couple of victories here for your 41st district, which includes all of Indiana County. What are the things that you would like to see happen within your district, and what advantages might this district have over some other areas of Pennsylvania that could attract folks to come here?
I think we already have a very high quality of life. I think that is pretty obvious. We do have a very strong work ethic in this community. I know all of our employers are challenged in finding a labor force. And again, I will go back to the challenges that we have with our basic demographics. We all know the declining enrollments that have occurred in our schools. We all know we have an aging population. So we have to get the labor force reinvigorated. But it's things like having Platinum Visual Services back in the community. It's things like having IUP transform itself that help create a population base that we can then feed off of. I think we still have, obviously, our big challenges such as broadband deployment, although we've made a lot of progress, and I give the Indiana County Commissioners a lot of credit on that front. We have a lot more to do. Our highway access, obviously, we still have work to do. We continue to chip away at 422. We all see Margaret Road getting improved right now. We have plans for other improvements on that corridor. And so those are all pieces of the puzzle that we have to make work.
Yeah, the 119 North Corridor is also something that folks are, for a long time, have been looking at and saying there's potential there, but there's not infrastructure there. And there have been great improvements on the places like Grove Chapel Hill, but those are just isolated to those particular regions to fix a situation that occurs. We'd love to see some sort of expansion there, as painful and as economically difficult as it might be.
Well, as the new senator for the Punxsutawney area, I'm driving 119 north more and more, and I'm further appreciating the need for some improvements on that corridor. And, of course, particularly with it being Groundhog Eve, that corridor is going to be highly traveled today and tomorrow and probably the day after. So,
He's Senator Joe Pittman with us this morning. It's interesting the comments you make about IUP transforming itself and where that fits into the whole formula of an aging population and the need to revitalize with younger folks not only coming here but staying here. IUP, the College of Osteopathic Medicine, there's a lot of potential there, isn't there, for IUP to lead the way?
There is a lot of potential, and we see a little bit of that potential already with IRMC and their residency program. Mm-hmm. They're bringing residents in. And in that case, there are 12 residents already at IRMC, physicians. 2 of them are from Western Pennsylvania. They're from all over the country, but 2 of them are from Western Pennsylvania, and I think the odds are that they'll stay in Western Pennsylvania, and that's really what it's about.
Yeah. Hopeful signs last night and over the last 6 months or so for Indiana County. Senator, thanks so much for the visit this morning.
Todd, thank you.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. 24 and a half after 8 o'clock. Jake is back with us from the newsroom shortly. And then in our next half hour, State Representative Jim Struzzi with his visit. It's Indiana in the Morning. Here's CBS Sports.